Hello everyone, this is Mohannad from Python Ninja YouTube channel, and today we will learn together typecasting in Python. Typecasting in Python or in other programming language is a process or a mechanism by which we convert between data type. For example, we change or convert between string and boolean, between integer, float. So this is the definition of the typecasting. Just to remember that there are many different data types we deal in this tutorial or next tutorials, including string, integer, float, boolean. And for the typecasting, we will highlight two typecasting. The first one is the implicit, and the first one is the explicit, by which we change explicitly the data type, and the other is the implicit typecasting. Now let us create four variable. For example, I want to create name, and I will put my name here, Mohanad, okay. Then I want also to introduce age, for example, 35, and I want to introduce GPA, for example, equal 4.5, and I want to say a student, and I want to assign boolean false or true. This is just for variables. For example, if I want to see what is the data type for each one, for example, I can print the type of each variable. For example, I want to use this for name. I want to print the type for age, also the type for GPA, and finally the type for the student, if the type of a student, if I'm a student or not. So now we can see in the running side that here for the GPA we have to use type, and we see that we have four different data types. The first one is a string, the other one is a integer data type, and we have a float and boolean data type. Now how can I cast this data type, for example, age to float? So I want to convert between integer and the float. For example, here I can do, for example, age underscore, or whatever the variable is equal to float. I use this reserved Python keyword or class. You will know in the next tutorials how can we create a class like this, and we recall this. So we use float to that variable age, and we print it again, and we can see that this has been changed to float. So if I want to print the original age, okay, and we will see that we don't have the decimal point, and now we have converted the variable age to float. And I can do the same, for example, for the GPA. I can convert, so I can manipulate between float and integer data types, but I cannot like cast a variable of a string to integer. Okay, so remember that. Now let us convert also or cast the float variable into integers. For example, we have GPA equal integer int, and we locate our GPA inside, and we can print this GPA, and we can print it's a new type, and we notice that the new type is integer, and we remove now the decimal point and what exists after this decimal points. For example, here we remove 4, and we only have the integer value. Now we can cast also between we can cast between integer and boolean, and we can cast between string and boolean. For example, we can say here, for example, name underscore equal bool, which is the boolean data type, and I can cast the name. So we print this a new variable name, and we can print its type. Okay, we notice that we have a boolean data type of the name. Consider that if we have any string, if we have one letter, if we have one word, this will be converted into a true type of boolean. Okay, but if I have an empty string, it will be casted into false. So remember that if we have empty string, then if I convert it to boolean, I will have zero signal. But if I have anything inside this name variable or any string variable, then it will be casted into true, and if it's empty, it will be casted into false. Now we can also convert or cast the integer into boolean. For example, I want to show you how can we cast. We follow the same protocol or the same syntax of casting between integer and boolean. So I want to print this age underscore, and I want to print the type of this a new variable, and we will notice that we have also true value. So if this age if we have any measurement that return minus value, the age is not a good example, but it will be also true when we cast it. And if the age is 0, and which is not used, just to clarify to you one thing, that if we have an integer value, okay, like in negative or positive case, this will be casted into true, and if we have 0, this 0 will be casted into false. So that's good in the programming. This is good point, that an empty string will be casted into false, a non-empty string will be casted into true, an empty integer or zero, sorry, integer will be casted into false, and any value other than 0, this will lead to casting into other than 0 will be casted into true. Now this scenario that by which we convert between integer and float, or vice versa, or from boolean and string, or boolean and integer, we can do the same also for the float. This is called implicit casting, so we can name it as implicit casting. Okay, remember this. But now this is what I want to describe for you about the this is called, sorry for that, this is called explicit casting. So we explicitly casting this is not implicit, sorry for that. Now this is what I want to introduce to you for the explicit casting. For the implicit casting, sometimes we have, for example, a float value, then we do operation for this float value with another value, for example, of type integer, that lead the result will be float. So it will be casted implicitly. So now we will go for implicit casting, and for the implicit casting. Suppose I have, for example, the first number and 1 equal 5, and I want to print the type of this number. So what is the type of this and 1? It will be integer. Okay, and I have in2, and in2, for example, will have 2.5 as a value, and when I print the type of this into, and this will be float. Now, what if I do like division? For example, I will introduce a new container which is variable that will store the result. So the result here will equal I want to divide number 1 over number 2. Okay, so we will have the result of the division. Okay, so we have the result of the division, and I want to print also the type of this I want to print also the type of this result variable, and we can see that the first number was integer, the second one is a float. When we divide integer by float, it will be implicitly casted and converted into a float. This is the implicit casting. So we introduce, or we show to you two type of casting: the explicit one, by which we have to explicitly change between data type to another data type. Remember, we can change between integer and float, or vice versa. We can change between, or we cast between integer and float and boolean. We can cast also between a string, and we can manipulate between a string and boolean. We can string between we can manipulate between a string and boolean, but we cannot manipulate between a string and integer. Okay, so but we can also cast, okay, a bit between cast between, or cast an integer into string, not vice versa. This is important note. I want to close by it. For example, if I have a number, okay, this number equal 5, and I want to see its, for example, number. The string representation of this number is just to type str for this number, and when we print this, we will see that this is printed as a string, and I want to show you the type of this, and the type of this is a string. But I cannot do vice versa. For example, I cannot have name equal, for example, Muhammad, okay, and I cannot say I cannot say name, or the integer representation of the name will be like this. Integer, for example, for the name, this is synthetically error, and this will lead to value error. Just remember that between integer, we can cast it to the or float, we can cast them to string, but not vice versa. This is for today's tutorial. See you in the next tutorial, where we will speak about user input in Python. Thank